Alrighty everybody, welcome back to another video of mine. It has been a while since I have posted anything. I think I posted a video last week about my life and what I've been going through lately and why I haven't been posting very much onto this channel or posting much flight attendant content to be more specific. But that's all going to change today because I have a really cool video for you guys. At least for me, I think it's cool. But it's going to be helpful for those who are applying to become a flight attendant, or those who are in training or going to training soon, or those who are just very curious about the flight attendant lifestyle and yeah, our day-to-day life. So without further ado, let's get into it. So today's video is going to be about flight attendant terminology. Flight attendant terminology is very important for us because this is how we communicate with each other on a daily basis, whether it be through text or even communicate with pilots or with gate agents, supervisors, people like that who we kind of see on a daily basis. So let's get into our first term, which is my favorite term, and I think the most important of them all, is an FA. If you think for about 5 seconds, I think you can guess what an FA is. It's a flight attendant. We are part of the cabin crew. We are the cabin crew. So we work inside of the aircraft, not inside the cockpit, but in the actual cabin of the aircraft where we do services and we help the passengers on board with whatever they may really need help with. Absolutely anything from getting you a soda or if you give birth on board. We do everything on there. So flight attendants, we do it all. Next would be base. A base is also very important. You'll meet flight attendants from all over the country, all over the world, even if you are, if you're an international traveler. So a base would be where you are, where you work. It is going to be the city and the airport that you report to work at. My base is Fort Lauderdale. So that means every time I am assigned a trip or crew scheduling calls me because I'm on reserve, I report to Fort Lauderdale Airport and I get going to work. If you are brand new and just hired, you're going to be assigned a base. You can put what base you want, write it down, what base you would like to have, but you're going to get what base they want you to have, and they will accommodate you if they can, and they will try to. So that is your base, that is where you're going to report to work. Next would be bid or bidding. So as flight attendants, the way we receive our schedules is every month we go through a bidding process online to choose how our schedules that we want, the trips that we would like to work, or the days off if you're on reserve, like me, that you would like to have. So that's how we get our schedules. We go through a bidding process and it works by seniority. Whoever is the most senior is going to get what they want, and there are only so many available open lines to have or days off that you would want. So if you're at the bottom of the totem pole, you're going to get the leftovers, but if you're at the top, you're going to be flying wherever the hell you like to. So that would be bidding. It is a process that we do every single month. Crash pad. A crash pad is what a flight attendant who is commuting, a commute is when you are flying from or driving wherever you may be, when you don't live in the city that your base is located in, that you have to report to work at, you will commute to your base. And then say you're on reserve and you have to be there 5-6 days in a row, you have nowhere to sleep because you don't live here. So you are going to rent a crash pad. It is basically an apartment or a home, not an apartment, it's going to be a home filled with a bunch of bunk beds, and you're going to be living with all flight attendants. It's all crew only, and you're going to rent it out for a few $100s a month, and it's really cheap, but all you have is a bunk bed. Now there is something called a hot bed and a cold bed. I don't do crash pads because I live in Fort Lauderdale, so I forget which one is which. I should know this. I think a cold bed? Dang, I wish I knew this. Okay, one or the other is when you either rent it out for the month or you can rent it out per night. So either a hot bed might be like, I don't know, let's say the hot bed is per night. I don't really know, so please just correct me in the comments. I don't crash pad, but a hot bed is when you rent it for the night and then you go and then someone else can sleep in that bed that night. A cold bed is when you have it for the entire month. You're going to pay like $300 or something for the month, as opposed to, I don't know, $25 a night or something. I don't know. I don't crash pad, but those are crash pads. They are houses available for flight attendants who do not live in this in their base city, who need cheap housing for them. Next, we have block time. So So when an aircraft is sitting at the gate, it has blocks next to the wheels to keep the aircraft from kind of rolling away with wind gusts. So this will essentially be what you're getting paid. It's when the doors close, they pretty much take the blocks off immediately and push the aircraft back so you can stroll on over to the runway. So block time is when the blocks are removed from the wheels and then you start to push back, to when you land in your destination city, and then the blocks are then essentially put back next to the wheels so it doesn't roll away. Flight time. Flight time is from wheels up to wheels down. The pilot will tell us in the beginning of the in our brief before we take off with the whole crew. He'll say the flight is going to be 2 hours. So you know what we do? We set our little alarms on our smartwatches for 2 hours, and the moment we start taking off, or right before we start taking off, really, we press time. You start the little timer, and you go, and then you time it, and you say a passenger will ask you how much longer till we land, and then we just say 25 minutes. That's a flight time. Wheels up to wheels down. Deadhead. Deadheads are pretty cool. If you're a flight attendant, you most likely like deadheading. So deadheading is when you are being flown out to work at another location. So I'll get a trip look at my schedule, and it says I have a deadhead in there. First day, 1 deadhead to Chicago. So that means I'm being flown out, and I will be sitting in the cabin with the passengers like everybody else, but I won't be working the flight. Though we will be getting paid for this. Since our company is flying us out to work, we're not technically working, but we will be getting paid for deadheading the same hourly rate that we get paid if we're working the flight. Deadheads are pretty cool because you can relax, you just chill out, you're not doing anything, you're just hanging out on the aircraft. It's pretty cool. Duty time. So this is important as well. This is when you report to work and your duty starts. It's from when you check in to when you I believe it's 30 minutes after you land, at least it's with my aircraft, after we block. That's when your duty will end. Now that's your entire work day. It's because we have our flight hours and our block hours that we get paid an hourly rate for. So we may fly in the air for 6 hours one day, but our duty might be 8-9 hours. So that's how you kind of figure out how long you've been working is your duty time. FO. An FO is the first officer. I am not too well versed on the pilot aspect of it all, but I know that he is less senior than the captain is. They kind of have to work their way up just like we do as flight attendants to become a captain. So he always sits in the right-hand side of the aircraft up in the cockpit, and the captain will sit on the left-hand side. As I just mentioned, we also have captains. Captains are pilots just as first officers are, and they are the pilot in command. They are in charge of what goes on during that flight. What the captain says goes. If he doesn't want you flying on that flight, you're not flying on it. I don't care if you're an employee or if you're another pilot deadheading. The pilot gets to choose what's what when he is flying that aircraft. The galley. I'm a galley girl. So a galley is where the flight attendants have their service cards and they make their coffee and they keep their items up there. Smaller items, we put our bags in the overhead bins. But the galley is up in the front or the back of the aircraft where we keep all of our service items and where our jump seats are usually, and where we kind of just hang out. Crew scheduling. Everybody's favorite is crew scheduling. I'm just kidding. They're people too, and they have hard jobs. Crew scheduling is not an easy job. I personally wouldn't want to do it because they deal with a lot of crap. Let's just say that. So crew scheduling, as far as being on reserve goes, because that's my experience so far, they are the ones who are assigning trips. They are in charge of assigning flights to everybody, to all the flight attendants, and they kind of have a hand on that. They really just control all of the assignments and all of the flights for the workers. A jump seat. A jump seat is where the flight attendants sit. And you've probably seen them before. It's right when you walk in the aircraft, or it's in the back of the aircraft. Sometimes it's in the middle of the aircraft. But a jump seat are those little seats that are flat up against a wall, and then they just boop, they come out, you can sit down on it and they jump back up. That's why they're called a jump seat, because they jump. Buddy bidding. So I don't get to buddy bid yet because I'm on reserve, but buddy bidding I assume is really cool. So say you have a friend and you guys are in a similar seniority, or even if you're not, you can still buddy bid. As long as you have what's called a line, which is when you get to bid for a schedule, you no longer are on reserve or on call. When you have a line, you can buddy bid with a friend of yours who is also a flight attendant. And that means that, like I said, you bid for your next month's schedule, the entire month. So you will see a trip or a line with all these trips that you like, and then you guys all agree, whether it would be 2 or 4 of you, that you're all going to bid for this line. And if crew scheduling sees that, they'll know that you guys are trying to buddy bid with each other, and if they're nice enough and if they're able to, they will assign you all the same month schedule. It's pretty cool. So you guys will be working together for the entire month instead of people that you don't really know or you're unfamiliar with. So yeah, buddy bidding is really neat. I wish I could do it right now, but one day. NonRev. NonRev is cool. Those are basically our flight benefits. It stands for non-revenue, and it's when we sit standby to fly leisurely on another flight to go visit my mom in North Carolina, you know. It's standby, it's how we fly for free, and those are our flight benefits. It's called non-revving. A layover. Layovers are our time spent in other destinations and other cities that we are working in or we are flown out to. That is our free time, pretty much when we're off the clock and we get to leave the aircraft and take our shuttle to the hotel. We're on our layover. It's about 20 hours, 24 hours, 35 hours, whatever it may be. That is what a layover would be. A leg. So a leg is just a funny word for a flight. Say we have 3 legs in one day. That's my day. I got 3 legs today. That means I have 3 flights that I'm working. I'm working from Fort Lauderdale, Chicago to LA, LA back to Chicago. 3 legs. Per diem. Per diem is what we get paid when we are away from base. So when we take off and we're traveling, whether we're up in the air or on the ground and on our layover, sleeping on the beach, in a taxi, whatever, what have you. That is what we are getting paid, a per diem. Now it ranges from about $2.50, $3, depending on what airline you're at. But yeah, we get paid a per diem when we're away from base. Reserve. As I've mentioned before, I'm on reserve. You guys probably know what it is by now. It's basically being on call. I do have a schedule. I know what days they're going to call me, and I know what times that they're going to call me. You have to pick up the phone and you have to report for work unless you're calling out sick before they call you, or you get points like a late sick or whatever. You'll learn it when you go to training, but you get points if you don't call out sick on time. You even get points for calling out sick. I'm getting a little off topic here, but reserve is when you're on call. Now this period can last from 1 year to 10 years or more, depending on what airline you're at. I'm not sure what reserve is like for another airline like United or American. I know it lasts a lot longer than with my airline, but I don't know if it's a little more lenient or laid back, hopefully, because living on reserve is stressful. You don't have a schedule, you don't have much say with where you're going or what you're doing at all. So hopefully it's a little easier over there, because reserve life is not the fun life. A lead. So a lead flight attendant would be the flight attendant who is basically in charge of the entire flight. They get paid a little bit more per hour, maybe $2 to $4, depending on what airline you are working for. And they are in the front of the aircraft, and they are doing most of the announcements. They are greeting people when they walk in. They are doing certain checks, and they are getting the paperwork and talking to the pilots, checking on the pilots. They're doing a lot more work than the rest of the flight attendants are, which is why they're getting paid more. But they also are kind of like head honcho. They're in charge of that flight or pairing. A pairing. A pairing is basically a trip. It's a set of flight numbers for different days that you'll be working, and that would be called your pairing. It's your trip, essentially. I don't know why we call it a pairing and not a trip. I really don't know what to tell you. Pre-flight. Pre-flight, we call them pre-flight checks. So that's what the checks that we do for the emergency, safety, and health equipment that we have on board as soon as we get on the aircraft. All of our emergency equipment, we do checks on them as soon as we get on the aircraft. It is the first thing you do before you check your phone, you talk to other flight attendants. I mean, you can talk and kind of check at the same time, but you got to really be very, very, very sure that everything on board is working properly and in its place and not damaged. Recurrent. Recurrent is something that us flight attendants have to do once a year. It's basically a training. It's a recurrent training that we have to do. It's not as intense and involved as the initial training is, but it is a requirement by the FAA for us to go through a recurrent every single year to ensure that our license stays valid. A turn. So a turn is when, it's pretty much, it makes sense when you know what it is. It's when you are flying one way and then you're coming right back to where you started, and that's it for your day pretty much. So say you're flying from Fort Lauderdale to Cancun and you're coming back to Fort Lauderdale. That would be a turn. You're just turning right around. Last but not least, the Flight Attendant Manual, also known as FAMs. We just call them FAMs. So that would be your manual that you're going to refer to if you're in a sticky situation that you just kind of don't remember the answer for it. Maybe something really particular is happening with a guest with maybe a disability, or you're not quite sure if this baby carriage is allowed to come on board because it is from another country and you don't know what the label looks like. So you refer to your FAM, go find that label, and you can find out if that baby carriage is allowed to sit where it's supposed to be, whether it be underneath the plane or in an overhead bin, or if it's allowed to be on a seat. The FAM, you refer to FAM for everything. All right, so that's it for me, honestly. I don't really have much more for you. Like I said, those are not all the terms you are going to have to know if you're going to training or if you want to get this job. You're going to know a lot more. But those are some of the ones that we use on a daily basis. So I hope you guys found this interesting, entertaining, or informative. I find it pretty interesting and cool. I mean, I love this job, so hopefully you guys do too. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye.